Welcome into College Football Week 12, brought to you by Better in Green over here on Power 4 Picks. We have our top 5 matchups for the weekend. Four ranked games. Looking like it's going to be a great week of college football. We also have another game in the ACC. We keep going back to this team. I think there are some good betting opportunities on this team. And again, no hate, but this conference isn't fantastic. And it's just you're betting and you're betting a team that's just not fantastic against a team that definitely has a shot to win the ACC. So really exciting week in college football. Really big SEC battles that I'm really looking forward to that have a lot of playoff implications. We are coming down to crunch time where teams are in must-win situations here. It's always usually must-win in college football. 1 or 2 losses are really going to damage your record, but really interested this week for college football. Also, really big news. We both hit we didn't even give out the spread. We gave out Wake Forest on the freaking money line. They were like plus 220. They win that game outright. So I know our records are usually spread bets, but we did give out Wake. And I did go 4-1 last week with my solo loss being Missouri. Ethan struggled a little bit, 2-3, but again, the plus 220 on Wake does make that a little bit better. That brings my record to 30, 22-3. Ethan, you're at 26, 27-2. So we are starting to heat up here in college football. And we only hope for this to continue as we get down to, like I said, crunch time in college football. Conference championships, I think, are really good betting opportunities. Bowl games, me and Ethan love betting those bowl games, and obviously the playoff games. We had a lot of success last year. So looking forward to the final couple weeks in college football. But Ethan, welcome. How are you feeling about week 12? And how are you feeling as we approach the end of the season?
Yeah, you definitely have the hot hand this year in college football. It is a nice 30-22, did you say? And maybe
Yep.
a push in there. Nice. Yeah, that's fantastic for the show. I need to pick it up. But I mean, right at 500, it's not terrible. But yeah, my actual bets have been better. I slowed down my volume a little bit in college football. I bet 8 bets back-to-back weeks. What would that have been? Weeks 9 and 10. Finished 4-4 both of them. And we talked. It was just getting frustrating, sweating out a full slate of college football to break even, and lowered down 4 bets each the last 2 weeks. I'm now on a 6-2 run in college football. So feeling better about kind of where things are going. I like this week. I like some of the games we're about to talk about. Obviously, some a little more than others, but yeah, feeling good heading into kind of the meat and potatoes of the college football season. You already hit on it. Bowl games, playoff games is kind of our bread and butter where, you can really go against some public storylines there and make some good money. So looking forward to that time of season. But yeah, feeling good about the games in front of us as well.
All right, let's get into our first ranked game. This is at noon on Saturday. This is number 9 Notre Dame at number 22 Pittsburgh. Notre Dame is a 12.5-point favorite on the road. Over under is 55.5. Now, this one to me kind of feels like a playoff game a little bit. Obviously, every game for Notre Dame is out of conference. They don't play in a conference, so they're not worried about a conference title game. All Notre Dame's worried about is winning out, and if they do that, they will make the college football playoff. Whereas Pittsburgh still is very much alive to win the ACC. Is that going to give them an auto bid into the playoffs? It's looking like we could have scenarios where an ACC champion does not make it into the playoffs. But Pittsburgh, you have your coach come out and say, this game doesn't matter. I don't care if we lose 110-0. All that matters is if we win out the rest of the season. And that is an automatic red flag to me. Notre Dame, like I mentioned, needs to win out. This game means way more to Notre Dame. And obviously, if you have a coach just saying this game doesn't matter, like I said, huge red flag. So getting a little square probably. And this is just more me, just like I said, a playoff game kind of, because we have two teams that just – I feel like we can just judge them on power rankings. The ACC is not good. I don't think Pitt is very good. Notre Dame not in a conference. I think Notre Dame is a very, very good football team. Obviously, their 2 losses were to 1 point by Texas A&M, and then they did lose at Miami. I know it's an ACC school, but Miami, even though they're 7th in the ACC standings, is still probably the best team in the ACC. So this is just for me really simple. Really betting the better team that cares against a team that is already inferior and that has came out and said they don't care. So give me Notre Dame minus 12.5. I think Notre Dame runs up the score and it wins pretty easily. How about you?
Couldn't have said it better myself. Notre Dame runs Pitt out of their own building in this game. It's one of my favorite bets. I'll definitely be on Notre Dame. Probably need to get in sooner rather than later. This probably goes up closer to 14, if not even higher. But yeah, that quote, pretty alarming. I actually, I know you basically gave out what it was, but I'm just going to read it word for word. Narduzzi asked, um, or let's see, created a stir this week when he downplayed the matchup against Notre Dame. Narduzzi responded to a question about whether it was a must-win game for Pitt. Absolutely not. Narduzzi said, "It is not an ACC game. I'm glad you brought that up. It's not an ACC game. I would gladly be beat 103 or 110 to 10 in that game. They can put up 100 on us as long as we win the next two after that. How in the hell are you going to back Pitt in that game? And this isn't a game where Notre Dame is going to overlook Pitt. Pitt now in the top 25. They're coming in on, I think, a 5-game winning streak. They beat Florida State on the road during that 5-game winning streak. Um, and then after this, Notre Dame has two nobodies. They have Syracuse, who was going to be probably a better game before Angeli went out for the season back, I don't know, week 3 or 4, and then at Stanford after that, which is a team they play often, but this is really the last big game on their schedule. They've been focused ever since dropping the first 2 of their season. Fate's in their hands. They're by far the better team here than what Pitt is. I actually heard that from the guy that I talk about often. Arkansas, 2-7, I believe, would be a 1-point favorite in neutral field over Pitt. So yeah, give me Notre Dame to run Pittsburgh out of their own building. I absolutely love that play.
Yeah, if you want us to take your conference seriously, then you can't have quotes like this. And maybe Pitt's also downplaying their loss to their biggest rival, which is West Virginia, but it's an out of conference game. West Virginia Big 12 team, and Pitt lost that game. Maybe they're downplaying that one too. That one didn't matter because it's out of conference. You guys got to beat teams not in your conference if you want to have any sort of respect in this league. That's why I give Miami a little bit of respect, because they do have some decent wins. I know they beat Florida, an SEC team. I know they beat Notre Dame, which is the best independent team out there. So at least they have some quality wins. Whereas Pitt, if they're only going to carry in their conference, then we can't take you seriously come playoff time, because the ACC is by far the worst Power Four. Probably even, I mean, I might even put the American ahead of some of these ACC teams. So again, no hate to the ACC. I just think they have a terrible attitude for having a really, really bad season. But yeah, enough about the ACC hate. We have one more game, unfortunately, in the ACC that we have to talk about. But let's go to.
Let me
go ahead.
Just translate what Narduzzi said in that thing. He said, "We're getting our asses kicked, and I don't want you coming at me and asking about the game next week. So I'm just telling you right now, we are going to lose." He's not basically saying I don't care if we do. He's saying, well, we are.
Yeah, it's such a bold statement for a team, like I said, might not have a team in the playoff, and you got to have some sort of respect to your conference. And if you just don't take these games seriously, then why should we put you in the playoffs? The winner of the ACC, why should we put you in? If it is Georgia Tech, they get in just because of the record. But it's just a laughing stock, and it's bad for football, to be honest. We're really coming towards a time where it's just going to be Big Ten and SEC, and that's just it's proven year after year that those are the power conferences. But anyways, I could go on and on about that. Let's go to a really tricky and very big implications for the playoffs in the SEC here. We have number 11 Oklahoma at number 4 Alabama. This is 3:30 Eastern time on Saturday. Alabama is a 6 to a 6.5 point favorite at home. Over under is 45.5. Ethan, wearing the Bama attire, what do you got in this game?
Yeah, just have to say it. Alabama spreads this year. My opinions on those 7-1-1. So seeing the Bama games pretty well. Depending on the number, you could have cashed with Missouri on that game. And then I just had the tiniest lean on Tennessee. That was the one that I did not cover there. But yeah, I like Alabama in this game to cover the 6. I just think they are so much better than Oklahoma. And still a team that I just don't know if they're getting their full market attention that they deserve. I think this team is as live as anybody to go win the national championship, depending on where they get seeded and matched up. I think they'll be in the national championship at least, as long as they don't have to play Ohio State going into that game. But yeah, I think Alabama here is just by far superior. Oklahoma off a nice road win against Tennessee. Then they did have the bye. Not sure if I like the bye in that scenario here. They have 2 easier games on deck, both at home. This is their last road game, but got to imagine Tuscaloosa is going to be fired up for this game. Alabama has not lost since losing opening day to Florida State. After this, they have Eastern Illinois, their second bye of the season. So no real look at there. And then Auburn, which obviously a rivalry game, but last 5 years with Auburn has been nothing to write home about. So this is it for Alabama. I still think, even though the realignment was a couple of years ago, I still think these SEC teams like to welcome in the newcomers into their own stadium and say, this is what you asked for, like, we're going to give it to you. So, I do think there is a little bit of carryover from Oklahoma joining the Big 12 or joining the SEC from the Big 12. And yeah, I think, being 11th ranked team, like a competitive team, it's definitely not one Alabama's going to overlook here. I think the line is short. Give me Bama to kind of roll in this game.
Yeah, this is a tricky one for me. I feel like I don't think Oklahoma can win outright. So then I'm really struggling threading the needle with the 6 points. And I feel like I've just made the mistake in this year and in weeks past of taking these teams in a what I think is a sharp situation. I do think Oklahoma might have some sharper money. I just think Bama's a better team. And I'm more interested in this Iron Bowl between Bama and Auburn at the final game of the season, where Bama holds all their fate and destiny in that game, which should be a breeze with no Hugh Freeze in that one. That's more of a game I'm looking to Alabama to get caught off guard. Also, there was a stat out there, not to bring up the Iron Bowl because we'll talk about that in 2 weeks, or 3 weeks. But Hugh Freeze is, I don't think he's played again, or there's been like 5 different coaches in 5 years in the Iron Bowl, and Hugh Freeze coached one, and I think they got blown out. And there was an interim, there's new coaches, a couple interims. So I think getting him out of there is going to make that game really interesting in the Iron Bowl. Maybe bring a little rivalry back. And that game is either a blowout or an Alabama OT win, like we saw, I think, 3 years ago. So I'm interested in that game. But yeah, I'm going to take Bama with you here. I think they're the better team. I don't think this is a game where Bama gets caught off guard. Like I said, this is their final, on paper, their final really big matchup of the year. I think they take this one pretty seriously, and I just think they're the flat out better team than Oklahoma. So give me Bama here on the spread. I do think it's going to be close to that spread. I think you're going to be sweating it out, probably Bama by a touchdown, maybe 8 or 9 points. So give me Bama here, but don't love this one as much as a couple other games we're going to be talking about here. Let's move over to the Big Ten. We have number 21 Iowa at number 17 USC. USC is a 7-point favorite. Over under is 48.5. This is also a game where I feel like Iowa is probably the sharp side, but I'm going to stay away. I'm going to take USC here on the spread. Iowa with a really tough battle, almost knocked off Oregon at home there, losing that game by 2. But that was a monsoon, which Oregon is a very pass-heavy team. Obviously, we know Iowa's bread and butter is their defense and their kick returns and their run game and their field goals. So that the weather really gave Iowa the advantage. I think it's just too much for them to go all the way to USC. And I think USC honestly is going to pile it onto them or on for them to make a really big matchup next week between USC and Oregon, which again will have really big playoff implications here. But yeah, Iowa always seems to play teams really tough at home. And again, they got lucked out with the weather last week. I think this is going to be too much. I think USC rolls them. It might be a little public. It might be a little square, but I really like USC in this matchup.
I'm right there with you. And I just don't know what I'm missing on Iowa. I just 6-3, great. But I'm just not bought into this team at all. I mean, you lost your 3 competitive games of the year, Iowa State, Indiana, and Oregon. I mean, none of them are bad losses. Iowa State is a rivalry game, and the other 2 are just way better teams than what you are. And yeah, they played those teams close, lost by a combined 7 points to IU and Oregon. But talked about it last week. It was a bad spot against Indiana there, or for Indiana in that game. Last week was terrible weather, but I don't know. Like, other than that, okay, you got to win against Penn State. That's decent win. You blew out Wisconsin, Minnesota. They both suck. UMass and UAlbany, like, they both suck. I don't know. I'm just not bought into Iowa. I don't think they necessarily came into the season with playoff hopes necessarily, at least not super realistic ones. They have their 6th win. They're going to make a bowl game. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not bought into Iowa at all. I am bought into USC. I think they came in with more realistic playoff hopes. And they basically have to win out here. They do have the big game against Oregon on deck, but Iowa's a big game. They're a ranked team. They're not going to overlook them. Iowa has to travel out to Southern California. Yeah, I like USC to roll. Line is fishy, as you kind of touched on there, but I'm just not bought into Iowa. So it's very hard for me to give out Iowa when I'm not a believer in them whatsoever. So got to go USC in that game.
Yeah, and Iowa's been competitive. I think they have a 5-point loss to Indiana as well, but that game was also at home. So Iowa seems to do well at home. And then I just think it's be too much travel. And USC is very much alive. If you are into the future betting, might take a little sprinkle on USC to make the college football playoff. Because like I said, that game next week against Oregon is going to have a whole lot of playoff implications. Really excited to watch that game. And USC is 100% live to win that game outright. So, yeah, I think it's too much for Iowa. If this was at home, maybe I'd change my mind. But yeah, going on the road, I like USC here. Let's go to, of course, the ACC. And of course, we got to touch on these Cavaliers of Virginia, who are number 19. They're traveling to Duke. Duke, unranked, is a 4-point favorite. Over under is 58.5. I'll send it to you. Who do you got, Virginia and Duke?
Well, I'd be a liar if I came on and gave out Virginia, so I have to go Duke in this game because not only did I give out Wake Forest on the money line last week, I said Virginia was going to lose out after losing to Wake Forest, and I still believe that. I think they lose this week to Duke, and I think they lose to Virginia Tech to close out their season with a pretty miserable 8-4 record after starting 8-1 on the year. But yeah, I like Duke in this game. Yeah, there has been some line movement going on. This was 6.5, I believe, at one point, maybe even higher, and yeah, now down to 4, but still think Duke's the side. They are off a tough loss against UConn last week, so both teams off a loss. Duke still chasing their bowl eligible win. And, I think they're going to end up being a bowl eligible team. They have this Virginia game. They're at North Carolina and then home against Wake Forest. They're going to get a win out of those 3, but I do think it's here against Virginia. It's a huge game for them. Yeah, they still have a shot at the ACC. Do they have a shot at the ACC still at 5-4? That's nuts. That's absolutely insane.
They have one conference loss.
That's absolutely insane. Yeah, it's got to be Duke. I mean, we're just so anti-Virginia, and I think for good reason. The team's just not very good, and the line is telling, this is unranked team favored at home against the ranked team. And yeah, again, I think Virginia loses out. So I think Duke wins. I think Duke covers. I like Duke in this game.
Yeah, I've been screwed on Duke a couple times. Got them wrong a couple times this year. Was on UConn on the spread last week. Did not call for UConn upset, but it did not surprise me. I was pretty big on the Huskies there. Huskies aren't bad. I mean, they're not good. There's people in the comments talking about UConn. If they win out, they make the playoffs. I mean, it's UConn. Let's be honest here. Their quarterback is like 35 years old too, which is he's like one of the oldest. You should see their quarterback. I think he's been playing since 2018, which again, we're almost past the year of these COVID free years, but I mean, he's been in college football for 7 freaking years, kind of like the Miami, Ohio quarterback as well. I didn't realize he's been playing since 2019. I mean, I was still in college back then. I'm 30 years old. Like, what's going on? But yeah, and there's a reason Duke is second in odds to win the ACC. There's a reason that Duke's favored after losing to UConn. And yeah, I'm just not sold on UVA. They have 2 conference losses, which only one counts, which is just BS. Duke has 1 conference loss, which was to Georgia Tech, where they absolutely dominated the entire game. They had a 14-point swing in the first quarter where they fumbled on the 1-yard line. Georgia Tech ran it back 99 yards as a 14-point swing, if you can't do math. And Duke was just a better team. And again, I'm not trying to be mean to the ACC, but if you have a chance to win the ACC, second best chance to win the ACC at 5-4 because you've lost every single out of conference game. I just can't take your conference seriously. And it's not like they're losing the big boys. They lost to Illinois, who's mediocre in the Big Ten. They lost to UConn, who's not great. And yeah, I just think Duke's a better team. The line is telling. I don't love it as much as I would have with the line movement going in Virginia's favor, but I still think Duke's a better team. I think they get it done. And I think we could. I do think we have Duke versus Georgia Tech in the ACC championship game. Whereas if Duke wins that game, I know we've talked about the scenarios where Duke wins that. They're going to let a 4-loss team, but a Power 4 champion into the playoffs, or are they going to let a JMU? Either way, whatever team gets in from the ACC or the 2 group of 5 schools, they're going to get rolled in round 1. But a very interesting scenario where we do not have our Power 4 team in the playoffs. But yeah, I got to be on Duke. Don't think Virginia's good. Kind of went on a little limb there, but not a limb. Kind of went astray there. I apologize. So let's reel it back in for a night game. Really important night game. Also in the SEC, a top 10 matchup. Number 10 Texas at number 5 Georgia. Georgia is a 6.5-point favorite here. Over under 48.5. I am seeing some people that I follow backing Texas. I'm seeing. I don't really know where the sharp money is here, but Georgia has Texas's number. They beat them twice last year, once in the conference championship game, once in the regular season towards the end of the year. I think Georgia's a better team. I do think Texas is still going to be a sneaky live pick to make the college football playoff because I do have Texas beating Texas A&M for the final game of the year. which will definitely make things very interesting in regards to the playoffs. But I got to take Georgia here. I think they're the better team. Yeah, I really struggle with both these SEC matchups, but I'm just going to take the better teams in Bama and Georgia. I think Georgia wins and covers, so give me the Bulldogs here. But like I said, wait for Texas to lose, take them live to win the play or to make the playoffs. You should get a nice juicy number there, because if they do beat Texas A&M, the committee has one hell of a decision to make come playoff time. But yeah, give me Georgia here.
Yeah, it's hilarious that we are talking biggest games of the week and we go from Virginia and Duke to Texas and Georgia. Who would have thought that back in week 1 of the season? But I wish I could just agree with you on every play because I'd feel pretty good with your current run that you have going here. But I'm going to go with Texas in the game plus 6.5. This game's really tough. I don't know if I'll bet the Texas side, but I'm just not super bought into Georgia. They're finding ways to win games, but really haven't been winning by much margin. Yeah, they get a win by margin last week against Mississippi State, and then they beat Kentucky pretty handily as well. But other than that, like a 4-point win against Florida, 8-point win against Ole Miss, which I know would cover the spread, a 10-point win against Auburn, again, would cover, a 3-point overtime win against Tennessee. They're just not the dominant Georgia that I think we're used to. And I do think Texas is coming into their own. And I think they are playing, kind of how we expected them to play from the jump this season. Obviously, had a lot of rough patches early in the year, but I think they're playing really good now. I think they've built up a ton of confidence. And, I think they're honestly as good as any team in the country right now, maybe outside of Ohio State, who still number 1 by a margin, in my opinion. But yeah, I just think it's too many points here to be giving to Georgia. Early in the season, I'd probably be all over Georgia here. I just think at this point, Texas is as good. I know it's a true road game here. I know Georgia has had their number, like you mentioned. I just don't trust Georgia to win by by a touchdown or more. So I don't know if I'll call for the Texas outright upset. It wouldn't shock me at all, but maybe Georgia by a field goal here, maybe an overtime game. I do think Texas stays within the number though.
Yeah, it's both SEC matchups are going to be great, but I'm struggling really hard to bet those games and find a good sharp way to bet them. My 2 favorite bets of the games we talked about, I'm really high on Notre Dame. I do think USC gets it done. So if you got anything out of this video, those are my 2 most confident bets. But yeah, what's your most confident out of the bunch here?
Yeah, Notre Dame by a million. They roll. Pitt.
Yeah, I love it. We do have our NFL show out now where we talk about every single NFL game in depth on a breakdown there. We are covering college basketball, NBA, NHL, MMA, soccer. So you name it. Make sure you do follow us over here on Better in Green. Give us a subscribe over here on our YouTube channel as well. We greatly appreciate it, and it helps us continue to do this. But do you have anything to add before we close off for college football week 12?
Yeah, busy weekend ahead, so we will not be live on Saturday or Sunday this week. Wyatt, I know you will be at the Lions game against the Eagles on Sunday Night Football, so I'm jealous. Definitely keep me updated on how that goes. But yeah, no live over the weekend. We will be back live on Monday, I do believe. But follow us on Twitter at Worst Bets, at eBainbridge26. We'll try to get our plays posted out as best we can. But again, busy weekend here, so. But yeah, looking forward to another great week of college football. Need it to slow down a little bit. We're getting into danger territory where it's coming to an end, but yeah, still a lot of money to be made.
Still a lot of big games to watch as well. I will say it's like the one game this year where Michigan has had big old line movement in their favor. Maybe that's a sign. Michigan was, I think they're up to 12.5 now against Northwestern. Was really scared about that game. They opened at 10.5. It's not often that Michigan gets line movement in their favor. So do like that game. But again, I'm a super biased Michigan fan, and it's not a great game to watch. But we appreciate you guys. Good luck this weekend in all sports. Hope you guys win some money. And until then, guys, we'll see you in the next episode.
Welcome to Better in Green, eh? To Better in Green, eh? To Better in Green, eh? Listening to cash out, that's what it's all about. Come on, let's make cash now. We always on spot and we cover old spot from the bottom to the top. Hey, shout out to Ethan, shout out to Wyatt. Shout out to Ben. Welcome to our podcast. Better in green.